Welcome back. I am so glad you joined us for this episode. You know, this episode actually came out of a conversation that I was having with some of my friends and colleagues who are in the online space. And I was actually talking with a couple of women that I met several years ago when we were part of a business coaching program together. We invested in ourselves, really, and in our businesses. And so that's how we met. We've kept in touch and we talk a lot about sort of our personal lives, but also our professional lives and just the different things that we are exploring, the different projects that we're involved in terms of our business or businesses. Both of these women have a couple of businesses just like myself. So, one of the things that we ended up talking about was actually this tendency, especially in the online space, to fall into comparison. Like it's so easy because, when you are, let's say, an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, perhaps you're even you're a practitioner. And you work for yourself or you're an associate within a practice, whatever that might be. But, when you're immersed in the online space as a means of marketing your business or showing up for your business or growing and expanding your business, it's really, really easy to get stuck in the trap of comparing ourselves. And so we're talking about how this is so common and how so many women in our own programs can get stuck in those traps as well. Both myself and my colleagues that I was chatting with, they both also run businesses where they are mentoring other business owners, other entrepreneurs. And we were discussing the fact that this trap absolutely exists, but also that there tends to be a marked difference between even the women that we coach, those that really are able to take their business, their goals, their mission to the next level, and those that might stagnate or that might remain stuck in a particular area. And so I wanted to playfully call this episode, What Does She Have That I Don't? I don't know if you've ever asked yourself that question. Do you ever find yourself observing your peers, your friends, or your colleagues and wondering to yourself, how did she become so successful? And listen, I was caught in this trap as well. I remember so distinctly when I first went into business for myself. I started my private practice. It was such a massive risk. And I would look, there was this particular colleague of mine and we had graduated at about the same time from school. We had started private practice at about the same time, and her practice really took off. Her business really expanded. She was experiencing massive growth. And I found myself asking myself this very question, how did she become so successful? What was her secret? She must have a secret. What does she have that I don't? So, if you have ever asked yourself that question, what is her secret? How did she become so successful? And what does she have that I don't? Then settle in. This episode is for you. And in fact, over the next little bit, I'm going to be outlining for you, I'm going to be telling you exactly what she has that maybe you're not investing in, or maybe you're not aware of, or maybe you really haven't spent enough time honing in your own business or your professional life. All right. So if you have convinced yourself that that person out there, that super successful colleague, that peer that just seems to be killing it and crushing it no matter what she does, if you've convinced yourself that she's got a magic formula that predicts her success no matter what she does, you're not entirely wrong. You're not entirely wrong. Here's the thing that the science tells us, the evidence tells us, the research tells us, and this is research that spans decades, that there absolutely is a magic formula that predicts success every single time. Okay, so maybe the science doesn't put the word magic in there. I've put it in there because I believe that once you understand what this formula is, I believe that once you can identify how specific and how concrete this formula actually is and how step by step this formula actually is, and you begin to execute on this formula, it feels like pure magic. Your presence feels like magic. Your growth feels like magic. Your success feels like magic. The ways in which you're able to show up to your own life, to your own business, to your own relationships begins to feel like magic. So that's what I really want to talk about today. I want to talk about the magic formula that predicts success, and it predicts success every single time. Doesn't matter what you're showing up to, doesn't matter what you decide to do. One thing I will say, one caveat I will put to that, it is so important that we are making decisions in our personal lives. But particularly, I want to speak a little bit to business owners today, particularly in our business. It's really, really important that we are making decisions that align with our goals. So critical that we are making decisions that align with our goals, that we're not saying yes simply to say yes, that we're not saying yes to every single opportunity that comes our way, that we are thinking critically and we are making decisions that are based on and aligned to the goals that we have for ourselves, our business, and our mission. And when we are making decisions that actually align with our goals, that's when we are able to show up to every single yes, every single project, every single collaboration, every single next level. We can show up and predict success. You've probably heard me share this statistic before. It is so powerful. It is the probably the single bit of research, the single statistic that literally changed the trajectory of how I practiced. It changed the trajectory of how I coached and trained and taught. Back in the day when I used to speak on stages quite a bit, and I used to speak in front of live communities quite a bit. This was the statistic that made up so much of what I taught. It made up so much of my thought leadership at that time, and it continues to inform the way that I work. So here it is. I'm sure you've heard it before. The evidence indicates that 85% of our financial success depends on this particular formula that we're going to talk about. And that those that have it dialed in also have success dialed in both in their personal lives as well as their professional lives. So, one of the things I often say, I have a particular training program called the Leadership Lab that we run inside of the EQ Code, my coaching company. And one of the things that I say to the women inside the Leadership Lab, the women that work with me inside the Leadership Lab are there because they want more professional growth. They want to perhaps expand their business or their practice, or they are women in, C-suite or high-level leadership positions, and they want to continue to experience success and more success. And one of the things I say to the women inside of my leadership lab is that we are not, nor should we try to be a different person professionally versus personally. How we show up to our entire lives is how we show up to our entire lives. So, how you show up at home absolutely impacts how you show up at work. How you show up at work absolutely impacts how you show up at home. And so, we really try to develop leaders from an integrative and holistic approach. And so, in today's episode, I'm going to be dishing out the secret formula that sets apart the top 10% of leaders across all industries. If you listened to last week's episode, I alluded to this. I alluded to the fact that if we look at and if we interview the top 10% of leaders across all industries. So it doesn't matter if you're in regulated healthcare, it doesn't matter if you're selling a product, it doesn't matter if you're a coach, it doesn't matter if you're an accountant, it really doesn't matter, engineer. But those leaders, those that take up leadership positions and are showing up in the top 10% of their industry all are executing on this particular formula that predicts 85% of our financial success. So grab your pen and paper. I'm going to share with you what that formula is. We're going to dialogue a little bit about it today. And at the end of today's episode, I am going to invite you to go a little bit deeper with me on this formula in a free training that we are offering that actually happens today. So if you're listening to this podcast episode on the date that it is released, March 22nd, this training happens today. Even if you catch the episode a day or two later, no worries. Let us know. We can send you the replay of the training. Okay. So, what we know is that those that are able to predict their success every single time, those people that look like they've got this massive secret, those people that look like they are able to show up powerfully no matter what the assignment is, have three things dialed in. Okay. The research tells us that it is our ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead that predict success. I'm going to say it again, and then I'm going to unpack these just a little bit for you today. So, it is our ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead that will predict our success every single time. And in fact, what we know without a shadow of a doubt is that if you do not have the ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead with confidence, this will absolutely have a negative impact on your outcomes. It will have a negative impact on your growth. It will have a negative impact on your business. So, I'm not saying that you cannot achieve some success without having these skills dialed in. I will be the first person to tell you that I achieved some level of success without having these particular skills fully dialed in. Right. Like I shared, at the top of this episode, I remember when I launched my private practice, when I first went into business on my own, I had a colleague that was crushing it. Like she was killing it everywhere she showed up. I was like, oh my God, like magic and fairies and unicorns follow her every single place she goes, whatever project she does, whatever talk she does, wherever she's showing up, she's like magic just follows her. So, and there was a time where I really struggled with it. So, and I was still having some success. I managed to begin my practice. I managed to launch my practice. But when I was ready to scale my practice, when I was ready to grow my practice, when I was ready to really have the level of impact, and let's be honest, the level of income that I desired, I realized that I actually needed another set of skills that I was never taught in school. I want to say that again because I know in my audience, I know in my community, I have a lot of clinicians that follow along on my journey, a lot of entrepreneurs, coaches, business owners, C suite women who are in leadership positions. So I want to say that again. I knew that in order for me to reach that next level of impact, of influence, of income, of growth, and of success, I absolutely needed to dial in a set of skills that I was never taught in school. Another specialty, another accreditation, another, certification was not going to do it for me. I needed to learn these skills, and it was the ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead. So let me just unpack these a little bit. And again, if you want more on this topic, if you want to go deeper, then we will link that masterclass sign up to the show notes. Whether you're listening to this before that masterclass happens on the 22nd or after, just drop your information there and we'll make sure that you get the replay. So let me start with the communication piece. So the first set of skills is the ability to communicate. So without being able to communicate effectively, and what I mean by communicate effectively is there's a whole set of skills within that. So the ability to communicate with clarity, right? I always say clarity is kind. We have to learn how to communicate our message with the utmost clarity. So important, especially as you begin to grow and scale. Okay. The second piece around communication is being able to communicate assertively. assertively. And again, whole set of skills that goes into assertive communication, but the ability to communicate in a way that is not dictated by fear and that's actually dictated by a deep sense of trust in yourself is what allows us to communicate assertively. Okay? The second set of skills is the ability to negotiate. So what does the research mean when we say the ability to negotiate? What we're talking about is the ability to negotiate our relationships. And I am absolutely talking about our personal relationships because one of the things I know from, spending so much time working with women is that when we are unable to negotiate and establish or renegotiate our personal relationships, it has a huge impact on our ability to show up professionally. Right. So, what I mean by that is if I have a super contentious relationship with my mother in law and that is stressing me out and I'm constantly ruminating on it and it's just sucking the life energy out of me, believe me, that's going to show up when I even something as small as when I go to market my business on social media or when I go and do a masterclass or when I show up for my clients, that energy is going to show up. So the ability to negotiate our personal relationships, really important. But the second piece, and I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but your ability to negotiate your professional relationships is critical to your growth. Your ability to set boundaries, your ability to engage in those interactions and those collaborations effectively, your ability to communicate changes, perhaps with your clients or with your staff or with other business partners, your ability to negotiate the boundaries, the guidelines that dictate your professional relationships is absolutely critical. There is only so far you can go as a business owner or as a clinician, as a practitioner, as a coach. There's only so far you can go without these skills. In order to take your success to the next level, you will absolutely need to know how to negotiate your professional relationships. The final set of skills that the research is really clear on that we absolutely need is the ability to lead with confidence. And truly, I think all of them are important. It's really hard for me to pick, but the ability to lead with confidence is critical if you want more. So if you're happy where you're at, then I'm not speaking to you. But if you are happy with where you're at, but you want more impact, maybe you want to have a bigger business, maybe you want to make more money, you want to have more influence, perhaps you want to set yourself apart as a thought leader. The ability to lead with confidence is going to be a non negotiable for you. And what do I mean by lead with confidence? Well, one of the things that we actually teach inside of our leadership lab is how to make and own decisions that are aligned with our goals. And the reason that's so important is, you'd be amazed at how many high level leaders there are out there, how many business owners there are out there that have sort of scaled to some degree, that have achieved a certain level of success, but have never dialed in the ability to make decisions with absolute clarity and absolute confidence because those decisions are aligned with their goals, not with other people's expectations. So often, the women that we work with are stuck in a cycle or they're stagnant in their business or they're not seeing the level of growth that they want because it's a mindset issue. They're actually stuck in the mindset of making decisions that still align with other people's expectations rather than making decisions that align with their professional goals. And until we can get over this block, until we can work through this block. It's a mindset block where we're able to actually lead with confidence. We're able to make decisions that are aligned with our goals, not with others' expectations. I really believe that we will always hit a glass ceiling in terms of our impact, our influence, and our income. Okay. So these are the three sets of skills: the ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead. These are the skills that are necessary to take you to your next level, whatever that might be. So as I mentioned at the top of this episode, we have a free masterclass that is specifically for female leaders, female entrepreneurs, clinicians, coaches, high level leaders that really want to take their business, their growth, their success, impact, income, influence, all of those magical things to the next level. We're going to link it up in the show notes below. Make sure you grab a spot, even if you're grabbing that spot after the masterclass happens, so that we can make sure that we send a replay out for you. All right, ladies, it was great to chat, and I will see you in the next episode.